Alright, guys, so in our book club, we read five different texts. Strange Thing Happened in Cherry Hall, Montgomery Bonbon Murder at the Museum, To Catch a Thief, The Queen of Ocean Parkway, and The Night Raven, The Moonlight Mysteries, which was my personal favorite. Instead of just reading and summarizing these books, our role was to kind of act like reporters and responders. That meant focusing not only on what the text was saying, but also on what our discussions revealed about meaning itself. Across all five of our books, the dialogue played a major role in shaping our understanding because the ideas were constantly being questioned, challenged, and expanded on through the whole group conversation. Um, and a strange thing happened in Cherry Hall. Our discussion focused heavily on identity, perspective, and unresolved storylines. Um, Katie pointed out that the ending felt a bit rushed and that the father subplot didn't really feel fully developed. This made us all think more critically about how mystery stories are structured and whether all plot lines ever really fully get resolved. Greg kind of expanded on this by referencing repeated moments involving the photographs of Remy's parents, which kind of helped show how small details can build emotional meaning over time. Emma connected the ghost character Blue to themes of being seen and loneliness, while I personally suggested that the ghost could represent grief or the past. Um, these different interpretations helped deepen everyone's understanding of symbolism inside the story itself. In Montgomery Bonbon Murder at the Museum, our discussion shifted more towards tone, humor, and how mystery is presented to middle school readers. We debated whether humor makes the story more engaging or whether it might kind of distract from the mystery itself. Some of us felt that the humor and illustrations made the story more accessible, while others questioned whether some of the jokes would be harder for the younger target audience to understand. Um, Katie pointed out that the illustrations added quite a bit of personality, which I kind of agree with, and helped guide understanding of the plot itself. Um, Ben also noted that although the book deals with murder, that it represents the topic in a way that was still appropriate for middle school audiences. A key idea from this text was when Bonnie experiences a sense of like she doesn't belong, um, which kind of connected her to the identity struggles throughout the whole story. In To Catch a Thief, our discussion focused more on decision making, morality, and how small choices can kind of escalate and snowball into larger consequences. Greg noticed the early clues about the identity of the thief, while others identified it later, um, including myself. I didn't get it until the end, um, which kind of showed how readers interpret mysteries differently based on how much attention they're paying to detail and the perspective that they're taking while reading the text itself. We also discussed Amelia's character. Katie and I pointed out that she often justifies her actions using these different kind of loopholes, which shows how rule breaking can kind of slowly escalate throughout the story and does. Emma added that Amelia is also really resourceful, but also incredibly impulsive, and that combination strongly influences the direction of the plot. Every time I say Amelia, I think I'm like talking to my kid. But um, in the Queen of Ocean Parkway, our discussion focused more on time travel, grief, and a loss of innocence throughout all of this that's going on in the text. Ben highlighted how this was one of the most emotionally complex books we read in our book club because it deals with family illness and very difficult life choices, such as changing something in the past and what that means for the future. We discussed how Roya's relationship with her father kind of shapes her character development throughout the story. Katie pointed out that the Coney Island setting creates kind of a whimsical tone that helps balance the more serious themes. Emma also added that the ending felt realistic because it did not resolve everything perfectly, which made the story more meaningful. Because in real life, very little like do things work out the way that we want them to. Um, in The Night Raven, the Moonlight Mysteries, our discussion centered on morality, justice, and survival. We analyzed how Mika's background as an orphan influenced every decision that she made, and at the same time, it made her more resourceful. But also, in that same sense, it also made her very distrustful of others because of how she had been treated throughout her life. Um, Not only this, but we discussed John Lynn, the murderer's motivations, and whether his actions could be understood, even if they aren't justified. Emma pointed out that the story presents different moral complexity rather than straight clear right and wrong answers. A key quote from the discussion that I remembered was the idea of a life for a life, which raises questions about justice and revenge. Across all of these books, one of the most important things that we noticed in our book club was how discussion itself shaped understanding of each text. When we disagreed or saw things differently, it actually helped us think more deeply about what we had read instead of one correct interpretation of the book. Meaning was built through the conversation. Um, Vygotsky explains that this process by stating that learning first happens socially before becoming individual understanding. This directly connects through our experience because our ideas were first formed through group discussion before becoming personal interpretations. In a future classroom, I think I would use book clubs to kind of encourage my students to think critically and to engage in a more meaningful discussion. Um, I would kind of use the structured roles like a reporter and responder so that the students kind of have accountability and are both responsible for sharing different ideas and listening to other people. I would also require my students to support their ideas that they have with evidence from the text that they're reading, which would kind of help strengthening their reasoning skills. Um, Daniels describes literature circles as peer-led discussion groups that emphasize student voice and collaboration. This reflects our experience as a book club because we're responsible for building meaning together as opposed to just relying on Professor Cordy or any kind of teacher explanation. Gallagher also supports this idea by explaining that book clubs create social spaces where readers negotiate meaning and deepen comprehension through interaction with each other. Um, Throughout all that, in the end, this experience has shown me that dialogue is not just something that kind of supports learning, it's essentially what creates learning. It's what motivates us to learn. Through our discussion, we were able to move beyond kind of the surface level thinking and understanding, and we were able to build deeper interpretations of each text together. Um, this club has made me a better reader and a better person overall, and I cannot say how thankful I am that I got to be with the people that I was with. So, I enjoyed literally every second of it. I enjoyed the books reread. And I thank each and every one of you for welcoming me with open arms and allowing me to blow up our text, freaking out and panicking. And I hope to goodness we get to interact in the future. Thank you.